My good friend Loveliest asked me to deliver a message. Oui, oui.
Welcome to the Timecake Appreciation Cast, formerly known as the Neurotypeline. We'll chronicle the development of neurotyping theory, connect various dots, and discuss the complex emergence and integration of ideas into the neuroparadigm. If cake is the antithesis to Digi-Socrates, let us be the Diogenes shitting on these platonic troglodytes. All information in the universe, apart from that which we say out loud, can be found in the video description. Fellas, state your name, rank, and intention.
I am your fast-talking craftsman and indestructible super god, Tarbuck Transom, your level 3 overseer, the firebrand with inner peace. Who's up next?
Hey, I'm Oro, writer, Ben Saint of Aestheticians, and podcaster. Let my life be a cautionary tale about the horrid depths that neurotyping can take you to.
Wow. Urcoy. Abolish borders, because I'm tired of beating a border type.
If there's no more borders, then what about my borderline personality disorder?
That can go.
Well, there is no border between fascinators and new types. It's the fa-nt on border.
Fanta. Antifa. Whatever you want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we made that joke already like quite a few times on the server. I'm not surprised by it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Tolgi. Introduction.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Tolgi. I'm a human calculator. If you're looking for the stereotype of an autistic math nerd, then you'd be right, it's me. Hello, I'm again here back with podcasting here. I hope you will enjoy this episodes of Post, because we have some very cool ones. And we can talk a lot of stuff about it. So maybe we will be even cutting some ones that we actually had planned, because might just crack the whole video format of this into 2.5 hours.
We have a full schedule today.
Yeah. Like a third of it is Timecake Posts, who is sadly not on the show today. Shame. Oh well. First cake by Neurotic Riddler. Homebrew Neurotyping Chart, Centrist edition.
Yeah, and right off the bat, 5 categories by 5 categories. That's pretty cringe.
Yeah,
I think the smooth differentiation between things is better at capturing what this was trying to get at in the first place. Like, it doesn't matter how many ways you slice it up, there's still always a middle, no matter what, anyway, because you're just like floating in this space.
Yeah.
You know?
But I don't want to call myself Antifa every time.
Hey, on the other side, we have like other more names, more labels. That should be good, right? Also, by the way, they changed the human calculator to just computation, which doesn't like make that much sense, because it doesn't describe a person. It's just it's computation. It's not a person.
Yeah, but then you also have contemplative, so I don't know. I like tons of categories. I think it's fun. Like, just collect as many charts as possible.
Yeah.
They just had to introduce at least 9 new ones because of the nature of a 5x5 chart.
Yeah. And I don't mind that there are more categories. Like, as I said, more names is always good. I don't like that there's an uneven number. Because I think it's very useful that if you're in the middle, you still have a clearly discernible leaning. Like, you're either understanding or you're more an externalist. I don't like that this allows people to be like, yeah, I'm just in this gray area right in the middle. I want people to have to give a leaning. So I think it should always be an even number of subsections, no matter how many.
So you
by the way, but uneven, you still want to have, if we have, for example, a 5x4 chart, then that still won't be good, because at one axis you will still have medium side.
Oh yeah, no, I mean an even number of both columns.
In both axes. Yeah. Understood you.
I showed this chart to a buddy of mine, and they made the good point that if you allow there to be a middle, most people will pick the middle. Most people, when presented with a 5-choice questionnaire on one of those like personality tests or whatever, they always pick the middle, because they're like, well, I guess I'm kind of both of those things, right? So I should pick the middle one. And they just leave it there. So what's going to happen is you're going to go from the nice spread that we have right now, which is already clumped due to the biases of people thinking that lexical and lateral are both intelligent and impressionistic is artistic. And so it's which of those things do you want to be the most? And it's going to make it 100 times worse because everybody who doesn't want a very specific corner to squat in is going to pick the middle.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's true for those questionnaires. I don't think people usually pick the middle, but maybe that's just because it's usually discouraged in the test because it doesn't give a lot of information. But yeah. Maybe people do that.
I kind of like it for like typing other people or characters, maybe, like, because sometimes like the middle is like a strange one that I don't think about, but then it makes sense.
Yeah. Time
it feels
It
feels more like a choice to put somebody in the middle when you have the modern graph, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I don't think this is much of a problem for self-typing, because I think people would usually want to be somewhat distinct. I think it's a problem for typing other people, because you usually have like a stronger opinion on one of these and then be like, they're probably in the middle for the other one. I think it's a thought-terminating thing to a degree, so I want people to have to decide on a leaning.
Also, it has this feeling to it. I agree with one of the comments that it seems like the whole post is geared towards centrism good. Like the idea that you're getting the best of both worlds, as opposed to it actually just being a flat plane and everything is kind of, individual differences that don't amount to much. Yeah, which is the way that it actually is, because people are mostly interchangeable as far as like the things that they're good at.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit different. I think I got the impression that they said, like hard lexies and hard limsies are just complete deviants. That's what I got, but in essence, that's literally the same as centrism good. This case,
like, the absolute middle of the road person. Do you think that person is by default a mentor?
Well, I don't think any of the names on any chart are.
Okay, I haven't thought about that, but
I have nothing to say on that.
No, but like an overall tendency towards being that doesn't strike me, I
don't know.
Maybe, I mean, in Digi's original video, there was a point about understanding being like helplines for people closer to the edges to fit in with society, and the same for externalist for the other side of the chart. So something that's kind of between those would probably also have a similar mentor or translator helping people fit in somewhere function. But then again, in this system, between those two would be rejuvenators.
I also like how Reasonable made it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. Yeah. Also, we will see quite a fair share of even more split paths, more split charts. Like, for example, we had like a 6x6 just newly developed. Like actually 2. But we won't talk about them, not just for
more
future
categories.
prospects.
That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the category wants more categories. How fitting.
See, this is why the left side are called categargoyles.
Oh yeah, and there was also a meme where we just created 40 by 14 chart to chart everybody in the world, because of course there's sometimes just so hard deviants. Like, for example, we took Wittgenstein as the most lexical person on the world, so we have to put him 7 sigmas off to the lexical side, and for that we need this 40 by 14 board.
So, well, if the total space of human thought isn't changing, you're just carving it up into different sections. So any number of categories or whatever is still always getting at the same thing. So the thing that you really want is for it to be human graspable. And I feel like having more named categories like this restricts your thinking to being closer to must fit in the dead center of this box rather than in the free floaty space that we currently have. It's cluttered and clunky, I think.
I don't know. I think 6x6 would be fine. Not any more and not any less than 4x4.
So we find essentially two charts which are like fit our criteria in like being.
Well,
This is acceptable.
like after you get somebody in, you hand them the advanced chart. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. No road
Level
maps from
2.
your other phone.
There's a couple of other like bad take pieces in here, like the left brain right brain thing.
Yeah, right. I don't think we have to talk that much about the descriptions of the axes because most of these ideas are recycled things we've talked about before.
Yeah.
There was
Most
one
interesting
thing
here is the
actually,
5x5 chart.
the this concrete versus abstract thing. I think it's actually like, if anything, like bottom left to top right. Because I found
that
like
seems to me to be like totally different. They just replaced the entire like vertical part. They've just made it mean something else.
It also just feels like convergent divergent thinking again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives the vibe a bit.
yeah.
I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Okay. Post 2 by Timecake. A preview of flow and window into impressionistic thinking, plugging the work of John Vervaeke. Vervaeke? I don't know. I'm gonna say Vervaeke.
Vervaeke.
Vervaeke. John Vervaeke.
Ah,
John Vibe Cake.
Vibe cake.
All right, so this John Yellowcake video, and then like the whole playlist and stuff like that wound up being a time sinkhole. Holy shit!
Yeah, I gotta
But
get
that
into
also like really, yeah, it really gives me an insight into Timecake. I think like I feel like Timecake has become more and more of a character on the show without ever being on the show.
Definitely.
In a very present way, and this gives you like, this is the backstory episode. This is the secret episode 0 origin story type thing for our hero Timecake.
Yeah, this is the Timecake appreciation cast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this post is only kind of sort of about neurotyping anyway. It's vaguely
barely
connected
about
to the
neurotyping.
idea of flow.
Right.
Where in this guy, John Vervaeke, he goes on about like the construction of meaning over time and how the idea of ideas has developed in human society over the course of centuries, and like all of that leading to the point of what is flow and how do you get there? And
how do you become a shaman?
yes, yeah, how to become a flow boy, and that's why his name is John Verve, because of the flow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The thing I find interesting is that this is a discussion of flow state, but it doesn't really outline different flow states, like the thing that Digi was getting at. So I don't think this is particularly a preview on flow states.
Yeah.
But the way he describes it is interesting in that it's okay, but now we have to construct surroundings which allow us to get into flow states, like flow machines, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what Timecake is implying is that Digi's thoughts on flow state would mainly be how do these people construct surroundings through which they can get into flow, and not that they have necessarily different flow states themselves, just that their outward appearance would be different through that.
Yeah, actually in the Megazord, Jelly made a post about like different ways to get into the new type flow state. Like you wrote down a bunch of stuff you can do, like make yourself really angry somehow, or like, I don't know, different things like that. Yeah, I think that's more of what it is.
Have any of you guys experienced in a firsthand kind of way, like what you would classify as different flow states?
I don't know if they are different.
States,
it's just different. The flow state in different places.
I think it's just a different surrounding. Like
it's kind of always going to be different depending on what you're trying to do in the flow state, but I don't think they're...
Because I have. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Then you should better explain.
Maybe we just haven't been paying attention.
All right. So maybe this is just two totally separate concepts, and it has they only share like the surface level features, and so they're getting mislabeled as the same thing, and I can't really tell, but they feel like different brain states. And then if you put that brain state into flow, it results in a different thing. Like there's definitely a feeling that I have when I'm like editing or something like that for a really long period of time, where I'm just doing the next thing and I feel like in the zone on that. And I feel like that's probably where most people land in their flow states.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that sound good so far?
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Then I remember back to some fighting training that I was doing at like a 2-week fight camp type thing in my early 20s. And so here's the setup. All right. You are taught various techniques to get to a point of competence. Okay. Where you can take a punch, throw a punch, you can do like multi-hit strings, that kind of stuff. Okay.
Pow.
You know intellectually what all of the different like blocks and stuff are, and you've gotten to the point where you can kind of put it together, but you're doing it while thinking about it. Okay. So then they put you in a corner, and they put you in like full like headgear and heavy gloves and all of that. And then they're like, all right, so the rules are you are allowed to dodge and block, but you are not allowed to respond with attack. And the other person will do 8 and 10 hit strings on you for 2 minutes straight to just overwhelm you until it breaks down and you get like a dump of adrenaline, and it connects to like I'm not sure if this is actually true. I didn't look it up, but the instructor said it connects you to like it puts your limbic brain in charge, and your limbic system is like fully taken over. And he called it like body think. What it felt like was you have your senses and your actions, and your mind is in the middle of those, turning your senses, making decisions, and then pushing those to actions. And the perception and the actions are getting closer and closer to each other, and then they touch. And when they touch, to perceive something, you are already responding to it at the speed of your like automatic visual processing and stuff. So it's like you are happening in the same rate that things are happening around you.
This sounds like unlocking your root chakra.
Kind of. I compared it to being the Hulk or to riding a horse, where you are kind of like, now you are happening and you are just aiming that in the direction of your opponent. It's sort of like you become harmonic to the world. Yeah. And
I don't think I've felt it as extreme, but like maybe occasionally gotten close.
Maybe.
But yeah, that sounds like...
For the vast majority of people without inner peace especially, it is an extremely overwhelming emotional experience too, because like, and they emphasize that in the training course, because like the instructor was like, hey, so nobody when I was taught prepared me for the emotional rush of what's about to happen to you. Imagine that you're getting like jumped by like 10 guys. That's what it's gonna feel like. And if you've never been jumped by 10 guys, then you can't really picture it very well unless you're really good at imagining stuff. So he went really overboard to try and prepare for it, which was good because like a lot is happening in that moment.
Yeah. I've had similar experience in the just happening wise department in diving, especially when you've been down there for a while, just swimming back and forth essentially. Brain's kind of low on oxygen. At some point you're just in you don't really know where your body begins and ends anymore. It's just, resistance. You flow with the water.
Yeah.
Don't do that too long, otherwise you might pass out, but yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. I kind of want to like do something dangerous and get back there, but that would probably be irresponsible.
Right.
Maybe I should have somebody hit me after this.
I kind of want to put my life in danger.
Now, I don't even know if that's the kind of thing that Digi was talking about, Like, I don't know if she had ever experienced anything like that.
That's pretty extreme.
I don't think that she's been on the receiving end of that level of violence, even though it was practice and I was safe, because she would definitely talk about it more.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, if I were to label that experience anything, I would have called that the pure instinct super flow state. Is that true, or is that just the stereotype of haha, pure instinct, love sports?
Kinesthetics.
Can't confirm or deny.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be the latter.
Read me. Get on the podcast.
I haven't
He'll
even
probably
done...
be on next episode.
Oh, yeah. We should totally get John Vivzipop on this podcast so that we can like interview him about flow states and stuff and see if that's close to what
John
we were
Vector
talking about.
Space, come to the show.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another bit in there about impressionism and lexicality, according to Timecake.
Yeah.
Not sure if that's meant. Timecake kind of links impressionism to implicit learning and how to optimize that process. And there's an example about people being given in a randomly constructed language, in many randomly constructed languages, fragments, and being forced to say which is a part of which, like, do these things belong together to the same kind of language? And they're really good at doing this. But when they're asked, okay, how did you know that these are, they're either going to say, yeah, I fucking know, or they're going to give an explanation that does not account for the success rate. So obviously they're doing something they can't figure out what. And I think that ties nicely into our conversation from last episode about the reasoning to conclusion, conclusion to reasoning bit, where apparently all people kind of go from conclusion to reasoning.
Yep.
Well, I think we kind of settled on that, but this is a nice example of that.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. Let's see. I guess the only other thing that I have, like, there's a lot of, like, cool material in here that's personally applicable to me and other projects I've worked on, like some experiments I used to do with a friend. That's a whole part of my backstory that I'm not going to get into tonight. But basically, the nugget there was that the reason that language thing that you just described works is because the people who were being shown those things were getting feedback of when they were correct and when they were incorrect. So even though it was like happening below the level of their consciousness, they were still getting.
That's for the Are You Being Watched experiments. For this, it's just they're generally just good at it and can't tell why. This one didn't have feedback. That experiment.
Yeah, that's also what we complain machine learning. We don't know why the computer can do it, but it just does it. Yeah, it's very cool, like getting from both sides, like that both humans do it and artificial intelligence does it.
Yeah.
What does
very cool loop?
What does an AI flow state look like? Probably terrifying.
It probably is.
Isn't AI just a flow state?
I think it's in the flow state like almost the whole time, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, it literally has everything that it needs to. So, it is always in the environment at all times.
Right, it's always in the game environment. It always has direct coupling of response to effect. There are probably consequences for its actions. Sounds like any AI training environment would be an ideal flow state environment.
Like, of course, if you just program it correctly. If you don't give it feedback, then of course there can't be a flow state.
Yeah.
Maybe the key to general intelligence is that the current AIs are all flow state, and we need to choke it with garbage so that it can achieve a flow state and real cognition.
Great. Also, can we all agree that the axial revolution was when laterality was invented?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
In the video, he talks about the axial revolution, which is when society developed the ability to think about thinking, and this coincided
second-order
with the invention of alphabetic writing. So, like, basically language good in this case, because it allows you to put your thoughts down in a concrete way and then think about them.
Yeah, and just a bit later there came the numbers, and after that, everything else is born, because everything is born with numbers.
It also allows you to be in a more direct relation with past versions of yourself, because you don't just think back on, well, how did I do a thing? You literally probably wrote down parts of your thought process and can be like, oh, that's a person I was at some point. Interesting.
Yeah. He's got a really cool piece in there about like overcoming biases and perception and stuff like that. This video, we're giving away like the entire outline of what this video is, basically, but I would still think it's worth a watch.
Yeah, it's pretty dense. It will be in the description.
There's like 50 episodes on this whole series, so like spoiling one 50, is like by the way, fine. Exactly 50.
And every video is almost exactly 1 hour long, like plus minus, give or take 2 or 3 minutes, but
pretty long.
This just proves what I've been saying for years. Classroom lectures and YouTube analysis videos and church sermons are all the same discipline.
Yep.
Digi really is a shaman of the modern era.
Yes.
Not that anyone was ever doubting that. Okay.
No.
Do we want to move on, or does anyone have more notes?
I think that's everything I had to it.
Yeah, we're on a good pace, so why not? Why not?
I see a hook in your notes for something about the video explaining why there's so many racists in the purple zone.
Oh, yes, damn that. Like, this is the biggest brain take. I wanted to ask Urcoy about that. Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so basically, when you don't have that much impressionism, when you're not like soaked in it, you'll just like get these like senses off of people a little bit, and if you're not like paying attention to those, you're gonna be like, I don't like that. And I noticed a lot of times, like a lot of people in the purple zone will be like, I don't like that. That's a thing they'll say a lot of the time. And something about the lateral zone, we have like a bunch of racists in the overseer zone for some reason, like to the point where it's like a massive meme. Like there's, I don't know what it is, but like it's the perfect area for that.
Yeah, I'm the only good overseer. That like we keep proving that time and again.
Yep. And Magic Man, but that's because he quit being an overseer and went to aesthetician.
Actually, I don't remember that arc, and I've never seen like Magic Man. I always remembered him being an aesthetician.
Well, that's because he has such a strong impression. Got him.
Yeah. Got him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if we have enough people to say that definitively, but
I don't know if it's true, but it's very funny. So
it is. Racism is objectively funny, once again.
Disavow.
Disavow.
Not it.
I think there's a lot of room to do material on flow states, but I just don't have enough of that material myself right now, so that would take a lot of work, and I don't want to.
I don't have enough flow states.
You should find a shaman and neurotype them, and then have them talk about the flow state.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Not a Ninja 64. Still trying to understand the axes. Is this explanation/diagram I made correct? If not, what's wrong with it?
It's pretty good.
The diagram is on screen. Does anyone want to explain it, or should I do that?
Let's hear it from somebody who doesn't explain things very often.
Okay.
Me or Tolgi?
Let's hear it from Tolgi. I want to hear Tolgi explain.
I don't know if that's actually a good idea, because this is actually like a mathematical thing.
Like, if it's a bad idea, that's the best reason to do it.
So exactly. So what we have is like few stages of the linear-lateral axis. Actually, they're exactly 6, and they're enumerated by superhumanly lateral, very lateral, somewhat lateral, and the same linear sides, somewhat linear, very linear, superhumanly linear. And what we see, the caption is different brains performing the process A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So basically just in order. And what we see here is just on different levels atomized networks, which like have some letters, and what we want to do is like create a path which goes through all these in order. And what we see is, for example, I described the superhuman lateral one, is that every single node has exactly one letter in it, and we have to traverse a path through it just by going from node to node. And this is usually what you think of, what you usually do. But then they introduce like at the very lateral stage that some nodes are actually like tied together, like BC, BD, FG. So you have like some.
We should also add that all nodes are connected.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually all connected to every other node.
Some of them are one way.
Yeah, it's not
superhuman lateral. It says it's supposed to be that way. Yeah.
Wait, all nodes are connected. Oh yeah, it does say all nodes are connected. So I just I assume it's like complete then, because connectedness just means you can go from anywhere to anywhere, but don't not that just exists one path, not like every node is connected to every other node. But
I think that's what they mean, though.
I hope, I think that's what
on
I
the
mean.
max lateral, yeah. Like
I think you
the
have
more
to
lateral, the
do
more
it a bit
two-way
differently.
it is.
Actually, this is a bit funny, like coming up with superhumanly linear, but yeah. Anyway, so what we introduced in the very lateral stage, that's some nodes are having like two or having two letters in them. So like BC, FG, and BD, GF. So you can like take some shortcuts. And as we like increase, we have like more and more letters in them. Somewhat lateral is actually in this picture it doesn't actually have super atomic letters. It only has like 2 and 3 letters in each one. And somewhat linear is just what you also have here is that those are organized, so actually going only from left to right. Because what we all had before is that they could go backwards, so to say. So if you have like left the in and right the output, then it would go like to right and then sometimes to the left, up, down. And what we have here in linear section, that it always goes to the right. So it's always propagating to the right without like unnecessarily going left or whatever. Other than that, it's actually the same concept. It's just longer and longer strings, and just sometimes they're like very short atoms. But often, and sometimes you can find very long strings. That's what we find in very linear. Somewhat linear is just quite the same as somewhat lateral, just that it only propagates. In the very linear section, we have only very few connected states. In superhumanly linear, what we have here is that we have an in state, and then we have only one layer of just very, very long strings. And then we have directly after that the out stage. This is almost connected. The only node that's missing is going from the in to the out part directly. But you can just draw that, I guess, for the sake of completion. What we actually have here, that it can't like connect any nodes, which is like a bit... it's just a bit unrealistic, but you get the sense of what they wanted to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems to communicate to me the idea of like memorized answers for things.
Yeah.
But even still, for that, you still need some kind of so-called linear laterality, because that doesn't work.
For good measure, I'll give this a metaphor. Superhumanly lateral is like the smooth peanut butter, and as you go down more and more linear, it gets more chunky, and then at the very bottom you just have a jar of peanuts.
A peanut.
Yep, the full peanut.
Yes.
Reed, do you relate to being the whole peanut?
It's a good nut.
Please answer in the comments.
Yes.
Okay. I think we should first discuss is what are the connections, because this isn't made clear in the post.
Right.
Yeah, the lines are just kind of like what you can think of next, right?
Right, because like there's two ways I could interpret this. First is that for linear-lateral, everything is its distinct little thing and it could be connected to anything else. And for linear, everything, like all these orders already exist. You have these big constructs, but they're not connected. And that kind of flies in the face of the Life in the Spiral video, in which this Digi explicitly said that with high laterality, everything is part of everything else. This event in my life is part of everything I will ever do and everything I could ever conceive of. So
all
this
the nodes
to me like it should, in that interpretation, correspond to the large clustering down there. But if the connections are just things you could jump to, then it's fine.
Yeah, the way I think about it makes sense to me, because all the nodes can also go both ways. And the way I think about things, like I just have constantly just different random subjects like sticking to each other, and like I'll see one thing, it reminds me of something else, which reminds me of something else, etc., like in rapid fire. And I think that sort of like builds the, a large holistic thing, like something that looks holistic, but it's actually like a bunch of tiny little pieces just interacting with each other.
The way I want to think about it for it to be correct is that these are not options that you could jump to the others, but these are like actual strings or tethers that hold them together. So if you pull on one thought, you pull on all the others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm wondering what Tolga thinks of the lateral thing, since he's also on that end.
So what I actually wrote that I actually like say, oh yeah, this is actually a very cool visualization. I think it's like the superhuman linear is like way more superhuman than the actually superhumanly lateral one.
Yeah,
but in both cases they're
much more
very, very unrealistic. Because also usually when we say actually look at the lexical axis, when like a lexical person build stuff, they usually don't have they actually do have like connected nodes, so that would like make them automatically only very lateral instead of superhumanly lateral, no matter the actual laterality. But other than that, actually, if you can just I think you can just give this a person, and they will have a way better sense of understanding than just doing words can do, like when presented in a video format or in the podcast. Or
I mean, you don't have to be like specific when you look at this, like, oh, which one specifically am I? You just kind of look at it like, oh yeah, this more up is like that, more down is like that. So I can get the idea.
Like
of what
most charts, I feel like this gives like it becomes clear if you take an impressionistic approach to it. So in my case, I took my glasses off and took a step backwards, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this gets at it.
Right. Charts are impressionistic. Got them.
Also, we can look at the cases where like you would not get the correct order. In which case, for superlateral, you get stuck in the maze, and for superlinear, you just pick the wrong one and get to output, and that's exactly the time cake lateral overload linear entrapment thing. If we imagine that you don't get the correct order.
However, there's actually a very hard line between linear and lateral, because in linear you can always like break exit, like have a like at least a break exit. Like if something goes wrong, you can just go ahead in direction out, and we still get an answer, even though nonsensical. But in lateral, you can't guarantee that actually. Well, I mean, you could, I think, because there's so many nodes connected, you probably would still find out. But
a finite number of steps that you get to do for a thought process by biological limitation.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, I guess. I mean, but the thing is, in humanly lateral, it's still everything is connected to everything, so you can just break exit immediately to out. So, we won't. I don't think. Yeah, I just stopped. That's a bit ridiculous talking about this for any longer.
Guys, I had a brain blast.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at this chart, I'm thinking, hey, what if you make a stable loop where you're trying to get to the out and you just keep going in circles and circles forever? Right. And then I'm like, isn't that what anxiety is you get stuck in a loop and then it kills you. Like, did you know that in nature, like if you lead ants in a circle so that they think that the path forward is the circle, eventually every ant in the anthill will like get stuck in this vortex of doom and it will kill the entire colony.
Yeah.
That's
so
anxiety.
What you have is like a instruction to go through this path, like an abstract set of rules, like go 2 times left, go 2 times right, like in this like take the options, and if you just do the instructions just right, then you will be caught in a loop. I mean, you still have to direct like where do I go in the in any single post here. Like for example, you can't just take like the second one. You still have to direct it. Like I will take the second one in any shape, in some shape or form.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that like, as a famous person once said, not all thought is useful. And so like, this is a good example of where if like, and this kind of thing can happen to all types of folks, but it will have different like stickiness based on, and like it'll feel different based on your laterality. Like I would feel like a linear death spiral like that would be more like you can't just like there's a surface tension on it that you can't break, whereas the lateral death spiral is like there's just so many ways to get back into it.
Just sucking you back in with all these random things. I relate.
I had actually one thing to mention, that in the way it's phrased, it doesn't actually discriminate in either way linears and laterals, which I find amazing because there are not a lot of posts that actually do like present a neutral version of the axes. Like as you've already like established, most of them are like very biased, usually in the sense that where their position is like better than the other one. And coming like that almost every post is lateral, then that means like lateral is better than linear.
I mean, this could almost be interpreted as linear good because it's just the shortest, most direct path.
I mean, what it doesn't show, like there should be like way more options in the superhuman linear, but we have only here like 6, but you can like construct way more. So
it also doesn't show fail states, which would be different.
And also like shrugs all the possible combinations under VARK, but just making like 6 so it can like fit on the screen.
Right.
I mean, the number
from a computational standpoint, first would probably be the easiest. This is human laterality.
I mean, the number of nodes in the brain is like a lot, so this would look different when you have
just put more neurons in the brain so we can get smarter.
Just put more neurons in the brain.
Yes.
I saved up for more neurons.
What you need to do, all right, this is your mission now. You need to save up, have some stem cells pulled out of your body and then cultured in a big vat until you have like a handful, and then you need to cut your head open and then just smear that like butter over your brain and let those stem cells just turn into brain matter, man. Just like expand your brain.
The thing is you can't like close the head again because that's too much mess.
Yes,
I mean that's literally the problem we are having. We have too big brains for like the hole we are coming out of to be born. That causes like quite a lot of problems.
Just put like a burlap sack over the hole.
Where do you work out? The library. That's that meme right now.
Okay.
This is excellent. Oh, by the way, I'm glad that somebody found my description of anxiety helpful because, as you may know from other media, I am immune to anxiety and have never experienced it before. So I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm making this up.
Nice.
Okay. Awesome. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You seem well read enough to like make a hypothesis on it. So I guess something like that. Yeah.
Another small little note, which is that Timecake talks to Null Ninja in the comments, and they talk about the Gestalt image of the 2 dogs in the blobs from the first or second episode of the show.
They do.
And I saw the correct dog. That is, in fact, the dog that is there.
You were
Feeling very
vindicated by history.
by that.
Before seeing that dog, I saw 2 other dogs. And not that one.
Yeah, I had to have that one pointed out to me.
You failed.
A link is in the show chat, and you, the viewer, seeing it on screen.
Mm-hmm.
That was, in fact, the dog that I drew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right on.
Maybe it's because you were the most impressionist.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I win.
Congratulations, you won. You won. All right. Is that it for that post?
Yeah. Dendritic Emergence.
Yeah.
Are you ready,
Time
folks?
Dendritic
Oh boy.
Emergence.
I had to look at this
There's
for a long time.
This is the best post ever made by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It explains all of neurotyping.
The chart is an egg, guys.
The chart is an egg.
Don't worry about it.
I kind of want to tackle this one. So
I think everybody wants to.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you because I
except for me because I
have.
didn't understand. It was too much new type for me.
The only thing I
everything.
understand is the human calculator hinge thing, but that's about it.
Gotcha.
So you go ahead.
And it doesn't even help that I have seen this like way before, like in a lot of times, but it's
Okay, first we'll explain the image probably.
All right. So
Can you?
This is a big chart with a lot of pretty colors and trees on it, and you read it from the bottom up, if I understand it right.
Yes.
Does everybody agree with that?
And then it splits off into different directions.
Okay, so it starts with the chart, which has flow lines starting on the impressionist side, going up to the left towards human calculator, where there's kind of a choke point, and then moving down the chart to the very linear side and emerging all over that side. The input on the impressionist side is implicit learning, the output is zeitgeist and the established paradigm. Then what Timecake does is he straightens out the line, which obviously distorts the chart, on one side into like circular lines, which
so it's like a fortune.
Always,
Yeah,
it's like a fortune
it's like
cookie.
3/4 of a circle.
You like take a fortune cookie and crack it in half.
Yeah, fortune cookie. That's a perfect comparison.
That's exactly what it looks like on here.
My big disappointment with the unfolding is that he never made the lines perfectly straight. And like, I know that all it would do would take the middle one and then like rotate the top half, like reflect the top half. But I want to see it. It would be satisfying to me to see it.
Also, like the very left chart where he makes them into a circle, essentially, looks like closed time-like loops, which is interesting.
Yeah.
For sure, especially with some of the things he talks about later.
Yeah, also, by the way, just a quick note, usually don't tier things when you transform things in topology, so usually this should be just a big, this should be full, this shouldn't be ripped. But you know what happens.
No, it should be. And the circular post kind of looks to him either like an Ouroboros or like an icon of Yggdrasil.
Or
which he
maybe
then
both.
combines into some Gnosticism thing, which is an Ouroboros around Yggdrasil.
Oh god.
The other
Ouroboros, I loved that.
Yeah. The other option divides the chart into 2 triangles, so that the lines start at the bottom and emerge at the top.
Yeah. Cut the diagonal, of course, and the breaking point is like the upper left corner of the human calculator is like the right side. So the right side of the chart is just the bottom side and the left side and the upper side.
Yeah.
So to say.
Which then leads to a circle-like thing where implicit learning is channeled from the bottom up to the choke point, then slowly flows into the paradigm, stronger the more it is different from it, and at some point reaches criticality, leading to a flap back down into the paradigm, and is then channeled again upwards through implicit learning and out into the paradigm proper, which to him mirrors the structure of the scientific revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And is again like a Landian Templex loop, kind of, which we also see in the time-like loops on the very left, which is cool in my mind. He then takes that, turns it into a network, which kind of looks like, I don't know, a rook. Not sure.
I would call that tree-like vaguely.
It's like
vaguely tree-like.
It's like a crystal
but not
tree.
at all tree of life-like, which he says it looks like. Like, it's very hard for me to think of a network that looks less like the tree of life.
Well, if you look at
the Sephirotic tree,
the image, and you turn the contrast up like crazy, you can see that there's like what's it called? Like the flower of life type structure behind it. And I kind of like that. That's pretty cool.
But we can all agree that this doesn't look like the Sephirotic tree, right? It starts with way more, ends with way more in the middle of the choke point.
There's a lot more going on in this. Well, okay, I won't say more going on, but there's more nodes. Right. There's more nodes in this.
He claims this looks familiar to the Sephirotic tree, and then says, well, I know this is Kabbalah, but it still is kind of a religion thing, so this links back into the Gnosticism of the Ouroboros going around Yggdrasil. Which is great.
So, I gotta ask, is this what is meant by chart looping?
I think it's not topologically the same as because topologically is just a torus. I don't think this is the same.
I'm thinking a lot about chart looping, but I'm not done yet. Like
Gotcha.
It's been
I can't
problem.
even think how this would be chart looping.
I don't
think
know
so.
what chart looping is. That's why I'm asking.
I think
chart
that's
looping
just
is
chart
means you
restriction.
have two hotspots on your heat map in different parts of the chart.
There's different
on
ways
different
to
sides,
think
as
about it.
though you were getting, for example, so lateral that you come out back linear. You can hold that divide.
This is more the flow of information.
Yeah, through a society. As Timecake puts it, the brain of a society.
The brain of a society, yeah.
No, it says the brain of a society.
The brain of a society. Oh, yeah.
Top
Nice.
right. Yeah, he does a different unfolding. First of all, into not quite as nice of triangles. And then, this kind of looks color-wise like a brain scan.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit silly. But also, well, if we have to unfold it, this is kind of like cracking an egg.
Yeah.
And then he wonders what is the yolk of neurotyping.
Okay, that was the joke. You didn't have to actually say that.
Like,
No,
we can
the
all
yolk
agree
is-
that the yolk of neurotyping was Digi, right? Timecake predicted her coming out. Neurotyping was an egg, and then she cracked it.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
No.
Hell
Yeah, because egg is like a trans term for
Right,
a
yeah.
person who hasn't hatched yet.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Digi's female identity was the yolk of neurotyping.
So I saw this maybe like 3 days after it had been
Oh
published.
wait,
the
now
very first
she's
time.
the chick of neurotyping.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
What hatches out of eggs? Chicks.
Oh, wasn't that the joke? I thought it was.
I don't know, but now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Are we
So-
stupid? We may be stupid.
Maybe. Anyway,
Yeah, continue.
so I saw this image maybe 3 or 4 days after it came out the first time. Okay? And I feel like have I been staring into the untempered schism or over these past many episodes, or does this make way more sense than it used to? Because I looked at this and just bounced off of it the first time.
Second Doctor Who reference to this episode. Okay. Going strong. Okay.
Oh boy, man. So I want to talk about the chart at the very bottom, because that's the one that makes the most sense to me, because it's not all
Right.
cut up and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it starts anyway, so.
Yeah. That divide, that block boundary that he's talking about, do you think that's even actually there?
Kind
I
of.
mean, for the things he wants to describe, I guess it's there for him, for the things he's like describing. But I think that you can just make pass through it, just through the line. It wouldn't like hurt. Where it's just where it like splits the path and just straight goes through the middle. Because not all things are like this is the same with pawns as like they have to go through the human calculator type. Some very small things just can go through the just go to the external list like for very small things.
No, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Yeah, no, I definitely think that line is there.
Yeah. I think you could draw a correlation to like the sort of weirdness of the types that land in there. Like, I think there might be something to it where they're like right between these two things, like the established paradigm and the implicit learning.
Well, because I feel like if you are on that border, what's going to happen is that if you're exactly on the border, then the flow is going to hit you going both directions. On one side of you, you're going to be hit with it coming in, and on the other side, it's going to be headed out.
And then you spin in circles and die.
Yeah. Right. So rather than being at the checkpoint, the nexus, the turning point, you're just experiencing both halves of it at different points in time.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you would not yet make yourself the translatory process. Like the arrow towards zeitgeist, which flows through you, is not a translation by you of the implicit learning thing. Mm-hmm. It's a later stage of that process. So you
if
take
this is even
things
correct.
from the one hand, which are earlier on, and then also process things from the other half, which are later on in their absorption to society.
Mm-hmm.
So you're interested in both.
Also, like, we have to pass this through the John Vector Space video, which explains how implicit learning works in flow states, how you keep feeding this whole thing back in. So these arrows, they don't begin and end outside the chart. Outside the chart is a big old nexus. And not nexus, vortex. And the zeitgeist obviously influences what kind of implicit learning can be done. So it all feeds back around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It goes into the void and gets flushed out into something else.
Which we also see in the middle graph, which kind of looks like an eye. The scientific revolution one.
Yeah.
Where we see how these things flow in and back out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like looking at this chart. I really love his style of making this kind of stuff. You know?
I love his black backgrounds. Specifically.
Yeah. Black backgrounds are better than light colored backgrounds.
Yeah, dark mode is better than light mode.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the amount of not taking yourself all that serious.
Yeah.
Like
he has
the brain of society and the flip it turn ways.
Flip it.
Yeah, the flip
it.
it. No, dude, you're snapping all wrong.
Hang down, flip it, and reverse it.
Also, there's just a meme in the bottom left. It's just Snoop Dogg, Bob Ross, kind of cringe to BH.
Snoop Dogg Ross. Yeah.
Zoom in on that.
There's a lot of this is the crystallization of ideas from earlier episodes, like shifting around the chart from the Vic and Hope episode, which was in episode 2, and definitely not episode 4. Shut up. We have like the flow of
historical revisionism in action.
Yes, historical revisionism in action. Only that's not happening. Shut up. This is the legacy of communism.
Disavow.
So let's see. This chart here makes human calculator and its neighbors the nexus of all information and novelty, where the established paradigm and the periphery of society all like coincide before scattering back out into everybody else. Does that ring true to you guys? Does that sound right?
I mean, I don't think that's what any one human calculator is doing, but I think for this implicit learning information, to be fed back into a lexical paradigm, which has to be lexical, has to be categorized for it to be part of the exact paradigm, it has to be so lateralized and so disjointed, disentangled that it must pass through that upper column first. Like, as you said, like, this is the process through society, not through one human mind.
Yeah, my criticism though
is
that everybody does implicit learning. There's nobody who's immune to implicit learning.
Yeah.
And you're not just implicit learning from other people because you don't know someone of every neurotype, and certainly not in order.
Yeah.
So, like, I think this is a visually cool idea, and it's cool at at capturing certain trends and the way that those certain trends flow. But I think that I wouldn't even call this a general flow in reality. I think this is just what some trends tend to do, and other things like come up from the back of the chart and hit everybody at once.
Maybe. I do think this is pretty strong. And no, of course you don't know all these people in order, but the thoughts that other people have certainly affect you through the media for everything. Like, things don't have to be part of the paradigm to exist within the paradigm to influence your own cognition. So, yeah, like, this just, I don't know, it seems right.
Yeah. I think you can connect with stuff like further down the chain without too much trouble.
Yeah. Also, Timecake addresses this in the comments of this post, that he doesn't really believe in individual neurotypes. Timecake also brings up the idea of heat maps. Everyone has a heat map, and of course everyone does implicit learning. Everyone contributes to the zeitgeist. It's just how much do you spend working on each part of this arrow.
Okay, yeah. I can see that more, I guess, or at the very least, I'm more vulnerable to that kind of argument.
Yeah, obviously, Timecake is an analyst, and he clearly thinks that he does implicit learning. Of course, he does. Yeah.
What does everybody think about the way that the colored lines are arranged? The idea that the pure instinct feeds the bookkeeper and the new type feeds the pure instinct, and this is the loop of information through the brain, like novelty through society.
Wait.
No, I don't think that's true. I would just see this as one big flow going from the right side to the lower side, and
it's just a
stream. It all mixes along the way.
Yeah. What I
feels
said to your statement, by the way, is that this isn't a loop. This what you describe is just a flow. So there's nothing looping. There's nothing going in to itself. It's just like a stream coming from one side and ending on the other side, and there's always like coming new stuff. So that gives kind of illusion of a loop for you, but it isn't like a loop.
Well, when it goes out, I think into
the
that
zeitgeist flows into things you could learn from implicitly. He explicitly says that in the eye-shaped thing. There is a loop; it just exists outside of the chart.
You were talking about that. Okay, yeah, but should mention that, because I assumed you were talking about like the rightmost, like the where it goes like from one side to another through the human calculators. That's what I thought.
Oh no.
I don't know if it quite grabs me also, because like, imagine this is a brain, okay? And you have novelty or novel thought, information, whatever, flowing through the brain. Well, not every neuron in the entire brain tastes every piece of novelty from every new sensation, even if the integration is really good. Yeah. So it's kind of more like a wave, but even then the wave like only has a certain range on it, and then it like echoes around and stuff. I guess not enough of it is grabbing me. There's something compelling here, and you could do more with it that might grab me better, but as it stands right now, this like I'm into it. It's cool. I wish it were true, but I don't think it is.
I've looked at this chart a lot, essentially since it's been out. It just comes up occasionally. I was always like, yeah, this seems about right. I can see those things. This is the first time I've really actively sat down and engaged with it to this extent. And now it makes a lot of sense to me why Timecake was so good back in the days at lexicalizing my terms that I made for neurotyping and such, because a lot of the ideas brought up here are very similar with like the structure of how the neurotypes interact with information, like with the data fractal that is reality. Yeah. So cool. It all loops back around.
It's all a rich tapestry. Time is a flat circle. That's why clocks are round.
And flat.
Let's see.
Anyway, should we leave this whole block of post and move the next one, which is like a very small thing?
Oh yeah, small note. For the eye structure, mirrors the structure of scientific revelations, he says that it's weird to him that pure instinct, the region around pure instinct, would mediate this phenomenon. And I don't think... that makes perfect sense to me. Pure instincts would exactly be at this intersection where things are just flowing directly into the paradigm, are now part of reality, and then are the first who could pick this back up and channel it back into the original thing. It does not have to, as for highlights, take in so much entangling with other information, which we talked about in the last post. It can just directly flow back in and create those feedback loops. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds like a very useful neurotype to have.
I don't know how that's
in society.
Weird to him.
Social igniters, TM.
Yeah,
social.
It could be just a new name, like a alternative name. It sounds actually very good.
It is.
I mean, that is my alternative name for pure instinct.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. I think that's. It's not that far along. Anyways.
We might as well move on.
Okay. Post by Digibro.
Oh, real quick.
Sorry?
Quick before that. The reason that you don't know one of every other type in order is because you just don't know that many people, man. Jesus' real miracle was having 12 friends over the age of 30.
What?
God, you didn't have to go to the mic for that.
Oh, great. Okay.
Wow. You deserve this.
Post by Digine, but idea by Carla Doatsmite. Neurotendency and heat maps.
Here it is.
Even though I said
friend of mine
and
the
brought
show.
It up, but first heat map was made by Carla to our knowledge. And it looks like a meteor zooming from bookkeeper to new type, like a comet.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
the visual of it being like, and I want to know more about other people's heat maps because I want to know how much movement they have. How much movement do they conceive of themselves having across the chart? You know, because this is a big zone. But if you look at like Tolgi, that's a much tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, like when I just do it before the podcast, I made it accidentally just a tad too big. Like I didn't intend the green region almost reaching to a contemplative. I just wanted it to just dip into the technician type, but I already drew it so big, the yellow one, that whatever, I just make the green one even bigger. And one interesting note, one idea I wanted to actually have is that actually I almost never achieve 100% lexicality, and that's why I have had that's why I erased the very last pixels of the charts and replaced it with green.
No, I do have an old one that I made. Here it is. I finally found it.
Oh,
it's like a squid or something.
Oh god, why do you have 5?
Highly disjointed.
Yeah. Well, this is an old one. I wouldn't...
Chunky. I guess you are the true peanut.
I'm not too sure about this, but... Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like I have sort of a reach, a little bit.
Is your psyche undergoing mitosis?
On a regular basis, not even.
Yeah, there's going to be a... Oh, this is schizophrenia happening.
Yeah, this is an externalist trying to get away from you.
This is actually what it looks like.
I have
when
multiple personality disorder. I mean, there's a
Well, you know what mitosis of the mind is, right? That's tulpa formation. You're making a tulpa.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Guess what time
Well,
it
you're
is?
far along into making 1. You're making 3 or 4.
It's time for my reference. Yeah. Watch if I can help.
No.
I actually just bought 11 2-liter bottles, but I still had some cans around for this episode.
Nice. I have no cans anywhere.
Yeah, I also made a new one for this episode because I no longer quite agreed with my old one.
Yeah. I'll try and make a new one and then we'll put that up also, I guess.
Yeah. Let's see. My chart is pretty... I use an old version of the chart because that's just what came up when I searched neurotyping. I was pretty lazy about this. I don't have every revision of the chart, you know?
Yeah, I imagine not having a whole folder with like 100 images from the neurochord and related things.
I just look them up.
And everybody's PFPs for some reason. I have multiple folders with everyone's profile pictures. What?
I think, like for alternative, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think Scory put them in zips, so I downloaded them.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't use them often.
Okay.
Anyway, what's very interesting about Tarmac is that he has mainly 2 states. One is like an overseer, and the other one is like an contemplative. Maybe you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah.
Because you can't see it.
So my main state is like in the top left corner of overseer, and that has bleed over in the different directions. I feel like I don't spend that much. I don't get that deep into analyst from there. I stay largely centralized when I'm mostly in that zone. Okay. But it's still kind of there a little bit. And like here on this podcast, you can tell that I'm like leaning slightly more lexical because I'm making a lot of like category and systems based arguments while I'm here. That's just the environment that we're in is we're talking about systems and charts and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've mentioned it before, probably on this very podcast, that when I get an idea in my head and it really catches me, I like drill down into it and I just keep chewing on it. Like you got something stuck in your teeth, you know, and you're just trying to pulverize it.
Yeah.
And when I'm in this mode, I feel like I am. Partly, I put myself here just because I feel like I'm brooding and I'm contemplative because I'm doing contemplation, but also because I feel more linear. I'm narrowly focused and I do tight loops on the subject and keep coming back to it for like 8 to 10 hours, and then. Also, I am like internally, my internal monologue is being more complete sentences and more like exacting about this kind of stuff. It's more like I'm talking through things out loud without moving. Yeah, it doesn't always yield productiveness, but this is how I spend my time.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess in a broader sense, this is also... the heat map that I made is reflective of the environments that I put myself in, that my life and its arrangement conspires to put me in, you know? Like if the situation of my life were different, that my heat map, like the spike would probably be in the same spot, but the rest of the blobs would be like in a slightly different shape, I think.
Oh yeah, it's kind of the thing we talked about with the Vic and Hope video.
Yeah, exactly.
About how you can like build emulative modes just for who you interact with and what modes you have to fill after some time. So yeah. We also should just describe the heat maps for the audience.
Oh yeah,
which is probably a bit late now. So Tarbucks is just the digi shades.
But one of the shades fell out,
and then contemplative. And a nice little nose bridge connecting them.
Yeah. Man. Good catch.
Urcoy is a guy walking. Yeah, no. It's
a baby squid.
like a pan that goes from Technician, where there's one heat point, through Quick-Witted, where there's another small heat point, to Overseer, where there's a kind of stronger heat point, to New-Type Fascinator border, where it's the biggest one. And then there's also one little heat point in Externalist, which is somewhat cut off from the rest.
Right. I guess
Looks like you're pouring eggs onto a plate.
So describing mine,
just...
I can produce because what the chart is done is actually 20 by 20 grid, where each neurotype is a 5 by 5 one, and I have my center where, like, if you go the most top left part, and you go one step to the right and then 3 steps down. That's why I have my red one supposed to be a square. But it didn't, it can't do that very good with like circular pen in paint.
Yeah, Tolgis is a pill going almost like to the bottom of Technician, and with the heat point in lower left Human Calculator.
Yeah, but remember, I didn't intend it to be that big. I only realized later, oh wait, it's way too much.
I'm just thinking Among Us.
yeah, I was also thinking that for your little guy.
Oh, that is a spaceman. It's an imposter specifically because of the stretchy tentacle.
And mine has the main heat point in like lower right aesthetician, almost the middle, and then is mainly semicircular along the impressionist edge, but has a smaller, not quite that hot point in externalist, and another small outlier at the analyst quick-witted border, which is the correction I made to my old heat map, because I only recently learned that I had that mode as a proper emulative mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
And it's a mode I would refer to as destructive reasoning as opposed to deductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, one small detail I forgot to say, that actually I have like a tendency to be like completely on the left side, but not exactly on the very left side, so like at 98%. Next to category, I just have my bitch mode, so that's
so not.
That's why it's a bit left direct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to get to the edges entirely.
I also made a little legend for my heat map, which I haven't seen other people do, which is that red is, I spend 66% of my time there, orange is 22% of my time, yellow is 8%, green is 3%, light blue is 1%, dark blue is never been there at all.
At least 1%. Like the other 1% that didn't to sum it to 100%.
See, I just trusted you that it would sum to 100.
Yeah. Okay, so since we all made one, I guess we can agree that heat maps are good, right?
Oh yeah, heat maps became the dominant conversation for the rest of time on neurotyping. Like everybody knows heat maps now.
Yep.
I feel like mine in particular was very specifically influenced by the Vic and Hope video, where I thought about it as amount of time and context that I spend in my life and how that shapes my behavior and my thought processes. What modes do I shift into in different at different times? And so like it winds up being that my chart is even as tight as it is because I don't really have a whole lot going on right now. Like I don't leave the house. I'm living the quarantine lifestyle. Only no, I'm not, because this is just what my life has been like for like years.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not spending that much time in radically different contexts where different kinds of thinking is required of me.
Mm-hmm.
Because who would want to spend bookkeeper time? Who would do that on purpose? I moved heaven and earth in order to get as far away from that as I could.
Yeah. Also, heat maps, like, this is still a chronological podcast, and a lot of people really did not like heat maps for a long time.
Really?
And still don't. Like, some people are still opposed to the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did have a friend of mine,
they're pretty good.
Two Straws, who was like, oh, well, you can just move around the chart? Okay, that means that the whole thing is bullshit then.
Yeah, you mentioned
right.
that. No, dude. That's
Which
why you
is,
have
like,
the red zones.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do have trouble, like, figuring out where I would end up at all, because I am somebody who, like, tries to think about as much as possible and in, like, many different ways. Like, I'm just interested in everything. So, like,
That's why you're my kind of guy, man.
trying to map this is, like, tricky. And, like, thinking about different times in my life, the best I can come up with is sort of this, like, parabolic journey, like, from the Impressionist side, with the tip somewhere in Technician or Quick-Witted, and then back over here at New Type, I guess. But even then, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's a whole journey.
So I can see other people who have just, like, never had to change their minds or the way that they think about things, not finding this terribly useful. But yeah, I think I remember Scroy's was just like it's just a circle, like just very small, really tight circle.
Yeah, I also think Scroy went back to heat maps are bad actually. So,
but also Scroy has actually like changed that, like his neurotype roles in the server, like going from a fascinator to a neurotype now. So that's also very funny.
I do remember him saying at one point, like,
his
time spent in there was like trying to convince himself he's not a new type. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's even funny when you have heat maps and it shows like, no, I'm not there, but now later, okay, I'm in there.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of those non-heat map type people.
Yeah.
he's non
he's
a
cold
lot of
on
things.
The heat maps.
He doesn't like a lot of things.
He hates 99% of all neurotyping theories, and that's why he's a mod on the Reddit.
All right, so the next Not a Ninja 64 post?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
again, Not a Ninja 64. I think I've noticed a problem with the linear-lateral axis. Correct me if I'm wrong. And his problem with the linear-lateral axis is that while he can see what I have no impressionism and I have no lexicality is, like what the extreme ends of that spectrum are, that laterality is that linearity is pretty much only defined as the lack of laterality. So you know what having no laterality looks like, but you don't know what having no linearity looks like. You don't know how high laterality goes. So to him, it's hard to place himself on that axis.
I feel like I got 80% of what linearity and laterality were immediately, and then didn't get the last 20% almost until we started the podcast.
Right.
I feel like I remember saying, what even is linearity a couple of times on this podcast in like episode 1 or something like that.
Right.
Maybe.
That was just so many years ago, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I had the same reaction to the dog image, being like, oh, right, we looked at dogs one time. And I felt like I was going insane because everyone said that they couldn't see the dog.
Yep. Okay. I made up new dogs instead.
Yeah.
Good times. Remember when we made up new dogs?
Humanity should be thankful for us for inventing all those dogs, which are now real and things you can pet. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I just shiver at the audio mixing. That's all I can think about. It's like so muffly, dude.
Okay.
I feel like I'm rubbing off on you guys. And not in the usual way. You're awake this time.
Yeah, so here's a very easy conception of what you could think of linear-lateral at. You have the current thought train, and then you have peripheral thoughts, as in things you are somewhat likely to jump to from that.
Yeah.
And for linear people, that's likely to be a very thematically related thing. And for lateral people, it is more likely to be anything else. And absolute maximum laterality would be your current thought has no bearing on what you jump to. So high linearity would be you think about what to eat, and then you jump to a thought on cooking.
Right.
And high laterality is you think about what to eat, and then you jump to a thought about the role of sun iconography in spiritualist whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for high lats, those, like, for the absolute most lat imaginable, those two would be equally likely. Your periphery stretches out forever, which is highly inefficient, but can lead to cool thoughts.
Yeah. I think that was the irrelevant information thing I brought up on the last one.
Yeah.
Like, it just, all this nonsense. Like, mom found the piss jar. Don't worry about it.
That's where you get saltpeter. Did you know that that's where saltpeter comes from? The ingredient for gunpowder is it is the salt from your peter.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, there was a small discussion with Timecake in the comments about them disagreeing what their perception of which scale is harder to put yourself on is. So
Yeah,
what
I
are your
like that a
thoughts?
lot.
Which axis is harder to type?
I think it depends on like what extreme you end up on. Like for someone like Geo, she like immediately got what the x-axis is. Like lexical versus impressionist is like, oh yeah, I'm definitely way over here. But then doesn't really understand the lateral one. But I got the lateral one pretty much right away. Like for the most part, because it's like, oh yeah, distractible, head in the clouds, random stuff, trouble focusing.
Might very well be. Like, I agree with Gia on that Lex Imp is a lot easier, but then again, I'm pretty much very close to her on the chart.
Right.
Within 3 or so squares.
Well, I mean, my opinion on this, I found it way more easier to actually know my lexicality because, I'm like almost at the,
you're more
almost at the border.
More
So
of
I
a
think
corner
it's,
type than I am.
So I think that's a bit more apparent than my laterality. I often just question my laterality. Just am I just always in human character, or do I sometimes dip in technician as it can be seen from my technician type, and I've talked about it before. So actually, I'm one of the people who think, lexicality is a bit more defined than impression, than the laterality linearity axis. I'm like almost kind of agreeing with this post.
I guess the x-axis
because
would be
I
more
think
prominent.
just for me, it's just a bit easier to like say, this person is a bit is that and that lexical and that impressionistic, but it's very hard for me to tell like linearity and laterality because for that you have to have a wider context to actually like accurately type, while usually only just a few posts are almost sufficient to like say, okay, you're about here and here.
Yeah, I guess in the case that you have both, the x-axis is the one that is stronger. I think that's right.
Yeah, no, that's probably a good idea. The axis that you have a stronger deviation from the rest of society on is the one you'll perceive as easier.
Yeah, but I think in the case of both, the x-axis makes a stronger impact. It's the difference. Maybe, I don't know.
It feels like the bigger insight of the two about how people interact with each other.
Yeah. Because I think linear and lateral, you can figure out ways to get through that without maybe even thinking about it. Like, you might just think, I'm like kind of weird, but like I still understand what's going on. But then on the right, left and right sides, that's where disagreements come in a lot more often, or total misunderstandings.
Yeah, I feel like there are more instances where you get people on opposite sides in the left to right kind of way, lexical and impressionist, where they hate each other than than the laterals and the linears.
Yeah, because linear and lateral you can like clarify between the two without too much trouble.
That's the passive-aggressive axis, and the categorical and impressionist is the active-aggressive axis.
Yes, that's a pretty good way.
And no, like, it's just a kind of almost irreconcilable misunderstanding that can lead to anger or it can lead to fascination.
Yeah, fascinating.
I think it's always going to be, oh, this person is weird. I don't get what they're saying. Fuck them. Or, I don't get what they're saying. That's really interesting. I want to try more.
Hot for AE.
Yeah.
Anyways, by the way, if I want to say it, I just have one more note on this, and it's about the definitions in themselves. And my opinion, I think it's just fine to have to define linearity as just the absence of laterality. Because I have more of a problem like having two definitions for one axis and going from one side to another having just a different definition. Because the thing is, the definitions have to be like completely opposite. Otherwise, you can just say, oh yeah, I'm kind of like 70% impressionistic and kind of 60% lexicality. Like I vibe with like the impressionistic definition, like 70%. Whatever that means, and like also quite a lot into the lexical part. So I don't know, because I'm together that makes like 130%, and then I have no idea where I put myself. Like to avoid that kind of conflict, I think we just theoretically we should only have one definition. Just say, okay, this one is this side of the definition, and this one is just a negation of that.
Actually, this reminds me of
avoid conflict.
Before the podcast, you and Xe and I helped a little bit. We're like trying to like rename the chart and make the test and all that. And I think we ended up with the structure axis for like the structure goes up toward the lexicality, and then atomization goes up toward laterality. I kind of liked it because it like I could think of impressionism as like low structure or something.
I remember that actually, and we had like I think it was also related to the facets we were having. So we have like 3 traits for one axis and 3 traits for another for the other axis.
Yeah,
and depending on how high or low they are, then you are like that and that much. What you actually have is like the modern definitions. They're just like the exact opposite. So we just copy paste and just change to is to isn't and so on.
Yeah, just one direction can help. But yeah, that's a lot of workshop stuff. So
I want to bring up 2 more comments.
Okay. Oh, before we do jump into that, I want to say that like your like single definition thing is great if it is actually a single axis and not, as I constantly argue for, an RPG stat graph where you can be better at both things or suck at both things.
Well, if you're thinking about it like I think about it like there's a skill thing versus like the cognition machine itself being in a certain spot. Like you can be like really impressionistic but like super good at lexicality.
Yeah, I think it can still be the stat graph, and the axis is then just the quotient of the two. That works, and you can just be in general competent or incompetent.
Yeah.
But what that actually would do is just add more access to this stuff. Actually, you can just map it to just more access, and it would just work. It wouldn't be
competence isn't an axis.
Oh, wanna see me try to do that in access? I'm gonna make it an axis just to piss you off.
Congratulations, dude! You've just discovered IQ again. You are now racist.
Nice. I can almost see it on the test.
Speaking of IQ, comment by ReadMe. I see linearity as automatic thought and laterality as effortful.
Oh yeah, I found that also very...
think hard, think soft.
That's interesting.
Way to go, guys.
I mean, as far as automatic, I had a recent thought that linearity is like automatically discarding unneeded thoughts, but I don't know.
Like trimming the fat or
yeah. So like efficient thinking, sort of.
Yeah, when I'm intentionally contemplating on stuff rather than just like it happening to me, that is what I try to do. I think like, all right,
right,
more crap keep bubbling up. I need to just like cut that and push it away.
Yeah, but I do think for naturally linear people, it is like automatic, like to the point where they don't even think about it. Like they don't even know that they're discarding these extra thoughts.
I would
like
like
sort
to
of sort of
know
like
how
the way
anxiety-ridden linear people are.
maybe, yeah.
You and your
But sort of like the
anxiety.
way that you don't see your nose most of the time, and now you do. Got him.
Got it.
Now you see your nose.
I think this is just trying to emulate/simulate another type thing. I think Reed, as a very linear person, is like, oh yeah, linearity is normal and automatic, and laterality is hard. Yeah, because you're not lateral, laterality is hard. If you were lateral, linearity would be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just like automatically going through all the thoughts as opposed to effortfully cutting them out.
Yeah.
I just love the self-deprecation, like with effortful. I see laterality as effortful thought. Effort just so.
Yep,
nice.
I put no effort into what I do.
But also, it's not nice to himself.
Yeah.
And the other common thing is that Timecake gets into a discussion with not a vampire and not a ninja. Shouts out to not a vampire.
Hey, shout outs to not a vampire. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, they get into a discussion about how one should type themselves, and Typecake is of the opinion that you need some absolute metric, like brain chemistry, whatever. That should be the ideal thing to have a test. And Ninja argues for a metacognitive approach of just, you should be able to look at how you think and be like, okay, if this is 0 impressionism and this is 0 lexicality, then this is where I fall in between, without having to test yourself. And put a pin in that, because that will come back up, this discussion.
Okay.
Succulent.
All right. Next one?
Cluster Duck 28. It's not Cluster Duck, it's Cluster Duck.
Cluster Duck.
I do not take constructive criticism to Electric Boogaloo. This one may or may not make more sense, I'm not sure.
This is
And
just
it's the political compass.
this is the really shitty version of the Corrado post.
They didn't even bother editing any of the text. They just flipped it 180 degree. Flipped the political compass, including text 180 degree.
Yeah, just on the horizontal axis, just flipped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's mirrored along the middle line. You're right.
Yeah, me,
Yeah, 'cause
Tarbuck,
along
and
the horizontal
Ouroborista, definitely all authoritarian right.
And I'm the anarchist here.
I'm the libertarian, right? Aren't I?
Oh, wait.
Man, maybe
rotating
it would have been better.
There's another one where they, this is version 2. The first version has libertarian as being hard impressionist and left being as lateral.
So
but as we go through this, I think this is so to speak, the best version you can do without like heavy contortions. Jamie, I think this is the best fit. This kind of fits the stereotypes the best, which you will have from the neurotypes, but it's still not. So first of all, the political compass is also a shit fest by itself, but like having adding another layer of shit to it by mapping it onto neurotyping, that is just too much. It breaks under its own weight.
This is finally the answer to the question: Are all 2-axis systems the same? No.
No. It doesn't even work, even if you are trying to flip it. It just doesn't work.
The more I stare at this, the more I think, hey, wait a minute. Best guy ever is a technician, and he's pretty lib-right, he thinks. So maybe it should be rotated 180 degrees instead of a flip like this, because I'm pretty left and Aura's pretty left.
I don't want to be NCAP.
Maybe you're so right that you're left.
Right.
Thank you, bro. Chart
More
looping.
into
His chart axis. We are always
Political
finally
compass
did it.
chart looping. Yes.
Believe in chart looping when it's helpful to you.
I mean, what is accelerationism if not political compass chart looping?
The Poseidists
It's
are
kind of
correct.
true, actually. The more you think about it.
and Nick Land is definitely a new type. I guess you could call the man lib-right if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so that would mean that authoritarian right is like the linear and lexical. That fits.
Oh, and fascism is the introduction of aesthetics into politics, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like, all right, so we're gonna have to make a new chart for this, the one that's the rotation rather than the reflection.
The
We can
gooder
just do
version.
every rotation flip chart and just compare it to them.
I also want to superimpose this now onto the golf prep jock, whatever chart.
Yes,
Just
do
put
it.
as many as possible.
Maximum mess.
Anarchism's for nerds.
You have won when none of the text is readable anymore. Let's see.
We already did that in episode 3.
Clear-sighted, externalist, impressionist, and pure instinct. Does that sound very Stalin? Eh? That one grabs me
This
the
whole
least, but I'm
thing
the
is
least connected to the authoritarian left anyway, whatever.
The whole thing is It's
Yeah,
just
that
a
feels the
meme,
most
dude.
I guess I can see Soviet propaganda as in those 4 types. Maybe.
So what I actually had is like what I wrote. I actually don't want to read this out, but anyway, I had like anarchism for nerds, party communism for bookkeeping nerds, fascism for aesthetics, and survival of the fittest for pure instinct. I haven't fit a place for externalists in the other lower right quadrant, but the pure instinct kind of was funny to be honest.
Wow. Yeah.
But please don't take this out of context.
Too late.
Yeah, clipped and cancelled.
My favorite comment here was okay bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even see that.
Hot take, don't think politics can be neurotyped.
No.
We had to include it. We have to include comparing this system to all other systems.
Right.
But this doesn't work and it's bad.
Yep.
I know it's a shitpost. I know it isn't meant to be true, but there's nothing to this.
And speaking of bullshit, you want to talk about the next post here?
Anyone have more notes on this
VARK.
one?
Oh, I just wanted to say there's a comment by Xe, which is pretty funny. So, okay, bookkeeper is Stalin, pure instinct is Hitler, new type is Ben Shapiro, and human calculator advocates for gay rights every day. This is epic. I learned politics through this.
Disavow. I'm very sorry for having platformed Xe on this show.
Oh, God.
You did this to us.
You've done this.
Okay.
Oh, look.
Asticius Lazaretto. VARK learning types with neurotypes.
You're barking up the wrong tree.
Actually, this is like just as as the last one.
Yep.
In the same way, actually.
Yeah, because it's but this time it doesn't actually fit to myself. When the last one it actually like fit like yeah, okay, politically okay, whatever. It's probably just a general direction, but probably not still correct. But this time it's just not correct.
This one is worse because the political compass is borderline bullshit. VARK is complete bullshit.
I actually like
getting discredited. There's absolutely nothing to it. There have been so many tests done on this. Like, when you ask people about their learning type and then make them perform tests, first of all, they will not of their own volition learn in accordance with the type they say they are. And even the people who study in a way that corresponds to the type they say they are do not perform better on tests. This keeps getting debunked. It's not true. This proves that people don't learn, neither visually, nor auditorily, nor in reading, nor kinesthetic. They don't learn that this does not work and is not a true thing.
Well, maybe you just have to try teaching them that it doesn't work kinesthetically by taking the VARK system, rolling it up like a newspaper, and whapping them on the face with it.
I mean, you can just not mention it at all. I think that would be the best option if you're actually going for that line.
Yeah. I at least like the political compass. I know I'm an outlier here, but I'm the only. I like the political compass. This is trash. I hate VARK.
This just looks like
there is.
Okay, if the last one was a shitty version of the Corrado post, this is like a bad non-meme version of the prep goth jock nerd thing.
Yes, it is.
Kinesthetic, sports, jock, auditory, goth, listens to music and stuff.
Right, kinesthetic jock works perfectly. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Okay. There's one valid application for VARK, which is that you can tell children who are idiots, if they were bad at understanding things previously, you can tell them, oh, you were just using the wrong learning style. With this, you can do it. So you just essentially placebo them into not having the preconception that, oh, they're not going to understand it anyway, because they think, okay, now I have another shot at doing it. So you can psyop children into understanding things better.
Yes.
But there's no actual effect. So this is bullshit.
The rebuttal that I heard was that it's the different subjects that lend themselves best to different learning styles. You can't kinesthetically learn differential equations, and you can't visually learn literature analysis.
When you kinesthetically learn a book.
I don't actually know what even kinesthetic even means.
That's
like a bunch of
use my hands.
Using your hands. Like throw balls.
It was just making stuff, right? Like creativity? Was it that? Or was it something different even?
Not
sports.
Really. More
the answer is sports.
Focused.
It's the beginning of Shrek when he rips the paper off. Like that's ever gonna happen.
All right.
Okay. I have literally nothing else to say about this book.
Yeah.
Time Cake closes us out.
Okay.
Nice.
Time Cake, neurotype testing, pseudopsychometrics and metacognitive approaches. Pseudopsychometric and metacognitive approaches.
And there's an edit at the top that reads, the more I think about this post, the least the pseudopsychometric approach, at least the pseudopsychometric approach, the more dissatisfied I become with it. So take that part of the post with a very large grain of salt. I would just delete the post, but I think I'll leave it up for posterity.
Thank you.
Yeah, good that you did it.
Time Cake is pretty good on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I said that this is the We Suck Time Cake Stick podcast. Actually, it's not, because this post is bad.
I bounced off of this one super hard.
Yeah, I tried taking a couple of these tests, and it was like, I don't know. Yeah. It's too much and too not connected to anything at all.
Okay. First of all, as I said, this is sparked by the discussion between Time Cake and Not a Ninja, where the idea is Time Cake wants a test to objectively measure how much you are these times, and Not a Ninja wants to just be able to think about it and type themselves correctly. And Time Cake offers here as a counter argument to that, if we look at certain academic writings, we can see that when people think about themselves, they think about themselves in the same way they think about others. They put themselves in a imagined setting and see how they would react. So you always treat yourself as another, so it doesn't work. I think that's a very weak to non-argument, since I don't think you could type yourself if you did not see yourself as another. You're just another who you spend tons and tons of time with, and therefore have a lot of data on. And that's how you should type yourself.
You have.
I think that's the only valid way of doing it. And I think saying that's the case does not at all invalidate it.
Mm-hmm. You can type yourself the best, hopefully, because you know yourself the best, hopefully.
Right.
And if you don't, then you should get to know yourself a little better.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't, you're hermit.
Yeah. That makes me think back to the blind spots thing and correcting for biases that was at the top of this, also in a time cake post about how about that guy. What was his name?
What's his name?
Peter Verhoeven. Yeah. Peter Verhoeven.
Yeah. John Vobblebrake.
Right. And like you should know yourself pretty well. And I think that if you take a bunch of tests and I hate the do a heat map by hand kind of approach because it will take 1,000 years to complete. But also, does it produce more accurate results than describing the system and having people pick where they are? If it does not, then it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, let's talk about these tests.
Yeah, let's talk about them.
I also didn't take all of them.
So I want to say, actually, these tests kind of worked for me. Like the neurotype they will indicate are human calculator. What I actually don't like it, that's actually a bit more lateral than lexical, which I completely say no. No, I'm definitely way more lexical than lateral. So that's but of course I only did the very first the 4 tests because I really didn't want to do the other ones because I was worried like I don't actually like just doing these tests. It will feel me just like a number after doing them.
Okay.
So at least I did have some success with it, but I actually don't know about the others. I don't know how Tabak, did you do it too?
I did not realize that we were intending on doing these until like 10 minutes before the podcast, so I did not do that.
Okay. I only did. Were there more than 2?
There were how many other?
Let's see.
I only did the. Oh my god! Why?
I only did the very. You see, he structured like the first 4 tests are like the most significant in his opinion.
I only did the definitive tests, not the more tenuous tests.
I only did the first 2.
Yeah, the first 2 are tests for lexicality, I think. The other 2 tests written, tests for laterality.
I don't know. When I was doing them, I didn't get the impression that I was like testing for anything in particular at all. It seemed really weird.
Right.
I was just like playing a crappy browser video game.
Oh yeah, it was actually crappy. That I can attest to.
I get how the laterality thing measures laterality because it's literally questions from an IQ test.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually like part of the IQ test. And the other one is just
Of course, IQ tests measure lateral thinking, but you can also be good at them if you're just smart.
You know what he said? He justified it by saying, "Oh yeah, I just use this moderate correlation of IQ and laterality to say, oh yeah, I just test for IQ to, correlate laterality."
Oh no, I do think IQ tests measure lateral thinking more than they measure intelligence, but they also just measure how much you do quiz and shit, and are good at that shit. So this would put me way top laterality just because I like doing these things.
Yeah, the thing is for the 4th one, that actually reminds me of like you probably maybe have heard of it. It's a game called Brain Age, like for the DS, where it is just like like boost your brain kind of games. It's actually very fun. That I played them a lot as a kid. And there was actually like kind of these questions, like this 4th test where he just gives you numbers and you have to remember what was said, like the 3rd last one. And that really like happened with my memory and so on. And this is almost what the test did. So I was like scoring like better than I should have usually if I hadn't done them.
Well, that's the dirty secret of tests like these, is that each of them is an individual skill that you can get better at by doing it a lot. And like, so that's the one fact about these that I know.
Also, for all of the lexicality impressionism tests, Timecake sadly does not explain his presupposition why he thinks these correlate with either of them. He goes a bit into it
exactly.
in the comments with people, because they're also like, how does this measure anything? And Timecakes admits later on that, for example, for the strobe effect, he could think of ways in which lexicals, mid-types, and impressionists each would be differently good at it. So he himself said that, oh, well, maybe it's all bullshit, which I can appreciate. Like, for example, I did the first test, the strobe test, twice, because on the first time, I got a negative 11 result, meaning that I was quicker at identifying the color of a word if the word spelled out that, if the word did not spell out that color, than I was at typing the color of a word if the word did spell out that color. So,
do you think there might be like a bilingual thing happening there where because you natively speak German and the words are in English, that your brain is just like, all right, I don't have to deal with this other language, and
I mean,
just, like...
that might be, but Tolgi got a really strong effect.
You know why? Actually, I don't know the keyboard very well, so I actually had to look down to the keyboard, and most of the first things I think were like in the very first question, so I think that skewed it a bit. But it wasn't actually that. I did
maybe, but no. It's randomly distributed. The first ones aren't more likely to say same color.
But actually, I can attest that when I'm doing Chinese, it's actually way better. So I actually don't look at the character. I just see the color and just type it. I think it would be like better if it was like in Chinese or Japanese. It's the same.
I would probably also
or just as
in Japanese, but.
Well, I mean, I'm getting to the point where it is like I just recognize the character, but for example, I think in Korean it should be like not using the kanji, it should just be using their language, so that would be like really easy. I mean, I can't like literally even read it. So yeah, less information.
Yeah, on the second try, I did get an actual positive result of +15, but it's still very little. So. Maybe it's a bilingual thing. How badly Tolgi did would point me in the direction that it isn't. Especially since your argument doesn't really make sense, because the score is the congruent things minus the incongruent things, and the time scale does not change how much of each there are. So you would have just been on average a lot slower with the incongruent ones.
Oh, I don't actually know that. Wait, what does like congruent and incongruent mean? This context?
Congruent means the word spells out the color that the word is, and incongruent means that the word does not spell out that color.
But it's random, right?
Yeah, it's random. So if you pick the first one slower, that would not affect the global result, because they would have the same distributions as the last one.
No, I think the first ones were actually like what was it, congruent? No, I think the first one were incongruent, and then later it switched. It was just a random thing. I think if I take it again, it would be like a bit less, like 200 milliseconds instead of 300 on average. It's great, but I think it was a bit skewed, like the questions themselves.
Maybe,
like
I don't think so, but sure.
Yeah, there was like a stat thing, and you could see that the first ones were more incongruent.
Okay,
it's just a random thing.
Well, in the end, what we're saying, I guess, is that if there's a psychometric way to measure neurotyping, we don't know what it is yet. Do we all agree on that?
Yeah. These seem weird as presuppositions to make, and also I will remain on my position that tests bad.
Yes, me too. See the value of good tests, but I don't see any good tests.
I agree on you that tests are good for marketing because people like taking tests then.
Yes.
I think tests are bad for people typing themselves correctly, even if they are good tests.
Tolgi, you gotta make the first good test with Xe.
Oh yeah, we actually have to. We had that still on ice, but I think like slowly we are like getting the questions in our back, so we can actually like have it.
Right.
ripe. The questions are not like half-baked.
Right.
Because usually, when I take those tests, I have like sometimes there are like duplicates and so on. So yeah, we should absolutely like avoid that.
Right. Well,
Well, that's our time, Cake.
That's our time.
Hey, it's
Yeah,
the
and it was
shortest
actually
one yet.
less than expected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's shortest one.
About 2 hours. Nice.
And I was worried that it would be the longest one.
I liked the speed. We didn't get stuck on weird tangents like last time.
I guess I'll see once I chop it down whether we broke the 2-hour barrier or not. Fingers
That might be
crossed.
close. Like with the ending, like 2-3 minutes, like just talking.
Yeah, it was still very dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
High
good.
value podcast.
Especially in comparison with the last one. Very sorry to anyone who listens to the last one.
Okay.
Were some...
Do we want to sum up our feelings on this post? Not on this post. On all the posts.
Sure.
Some pretty good.
All the
some
posts this
pretty
episode
not
or
good.
all posts?
Where do we feel like the total community was at this point in time?
Oh, I think this is really... We're getting past the stumbling blocks early on. Like, there was a bunch of interesting, cool, actually new shit this time.
Right.
Mainly by Time Cake. Oh, well, I guess the last two, last two posts were kind of bad, but we can see a bunch of more new ideas as opposed to just, well, I still don't get the axles. Let us argue again about that shit again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Speaking of getting or not getting the axes, next episode we'll be talking about the Digi going on the Dick show, defining linearity, and then nobody watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually watched it because but I was very like surprised having this in my recommendations. Like, wait, did another video? Okay, I gotta watch that too.
Yeah, similarly to the Vic and Hope one, it's something I found afterward. It's like, what? Nobody
No,
told
I actually
me?
watched it like exactly when it came out. I was like very lucky with the actual like videos.
Fascinating.
Tolgi getting lucky, me not so much.
I mean, I was literally searching for everything that had like neurotyping in its title, so I think I just found it, maybe. And it was just YouTube giving me a helping hand.
Finally, YouTube being helpful.
Yeah, one of the very few times.
All right. I feel like we're getting more high effort charts in this zone. Like, I'm feeling like Time Cake is having a big impact on the high effort charts that we see.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, if only he'd get on the podcast.
If only. Cake, a seat is always free. Messages.
Yeah, for any guests. But especially patron saints. We actually wanted to invite like just a patron saint last minute because we all the guests like declined, but we said no, we just do it by ourselves. Yeah. It's fine.
Like unless you did something extraordinarily cool, we will not reach out to you. You have to say you want to be on the show. So just tell us.
Yeah, like...
And most of them you already know, like Groundhogs and Time Cake. Well, actually, Time Cake is in the Discord, so we did not have a like very high... we didn't have to search very far.
Yeah, I'm in a private Discord server with Carla. A couple of them, actually. Yeah. So we might be able to make that. We might get Dote Smote.
Yeah, we're going to try to get...
Excited about that.
Carla.
Yeah.
I know. Like, next episode could either be Reed or Carla. I'm not sure.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Sync
we're done? Or do any of you have more thoughts on where neurotyping is going in this era?
No, because I'm hungry and I'm now thinking with my stomach.